Good morning and welcome to First Unitarian Church. What a way to start. Wow. It's so great to see you all. Welcome to those who are joining us online. We're really glad that you're with us, and a very special welcome to our guests and visitors. We're so delighted that you're here. Thank you for giving us a shot this morning, and please stay after service and let us get to know you a little bit. There's a lot going on this week, and we are trying to slim down the amount of time we spend making announcements so that we have more time for worship. So check out this lovely new half sheet that Lizzie is making for us. It's nice, right? This has lots of announcements in it, including there's a movie on peace in the Middle East on Thursday. There's a seed starting class on Saturday. So many good things to see and do and participate in here in our church. If you need more information, we've got tables for information giving in Elliott Hall after worship. Now, we do have a few things that need to be said from the pulpit, so here they are. First of all, our pledge campaign. If you have turned in your pledge card, raise your hand. You're awesome. If you haven't turned in your pledge card, you are also awesome, but we really want you to get it in. We are just about halfway through this year's pledge campaign and not yet halfway to our goal, so we're feeling the heat just a little bit. We are also looking for 2 families to go over the top at $10,000 or more, and we're looking for 20 new pledges. So those are big, ambitious goals, but we know we can do it because we do it every year. So please take some time to get your pledge card in as soon as you can. Tuesday night is Teams Night. We have our volunteer team meetings at 7. There's pizza at 6:30. And if you're not serving on one of our volunteer teams, please come and join our environmental ministry letter writing campaign on behalf of the Great Salt Lake. This will be the final letter writing session of the legislative season. It's really fun and meaningful, so if you're able, please stop by the environmental ministry table to let them know so that we can make sure we've got plenty of supplies and pizza. Our new member class begins this Wednesday evening at 7 o'clock. If you're interested in becoming a member of our church, or if you just want to learn more about what Unitarian Universalism is, please sign up for that class at the welcome table. And finally, the ministers, the Board of Trustees, and our sanctuary team invite you to an immigration justice town hall of our church next Sunday, March 2nd at 12:30, right after this service in this room. As many of you know, during the first Trump administration, our church was a sanctuary church, and we provided a home and sanctuary for a family here. Now, the political climate has changed dramatically since 2018, and our church leadership has been discerning the best ways to show up for our undocumented neighbors in this new reality. So in this town hall, we will share the outcomes of several meetings among our leaders who were involved in this effort before. Then, together as a congregation, we will brainstorm, engage interest and ideas about immigration justice work our congregation might engage in going forward. We will be sharing information, seeking input, and signing up volunteers to both plan and participate in our immigration justice work. So we invite all of you to attend. Now, we begin our work of worship together by lighting our chalice. And these words I bring you today by the Rabbi Abraham Heschel. Our goal should be to live life in radical amazement. Get up in the morning and look at the world in a way that takes nothing for granted. Everything is phenomenal. Everything is incredible. Never treat life casually. To be spiritual is to be amazed. Now, I invite you to rise in body or in spirit, and let's sing together number 1074.
And in the spirit of cutting down on announcements, we're going to cut down on singing hymns that you don't know. But not today. So it's the last one in the Teal book. It also has the honor of being the longest hymn in both of our books combined. It's 6 pages long. And it also has a whole bunch of repeats. Don't let those repeats scare you. All right, the one thing you need to remember is you never turn a page backward. All right, so you work your way through it. So if you'll look at page 1074, and that first section, and you've got those repeat lines that are the little black lines with 2 dots, those ping pong balls just play back and forth with each other. You do all 3 of those sections before you move on. Okay, so we do all 3 of those lines, then we go to the next page. No repeat lines. So when you get to the end of that one, you're going to turn over. Now you've got a new section that has repeat lines, and it happens in 2 sections. The first time, it's just the top line. Okay? This side of the choir is going to help you with that. Then the second line comes in Portuguese. And then that. And we do that. Then we go on. Then you get to the next page. There's another one of those group of cards that has 3 lines. Okay? So you do all 3 of those lines before we finally get to the last page, which has a double repeat. Okay? The only other hard thing is the rhythm. You'll notice that it says 5. Oh man. Well, how that really works is 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2. 1, 2, 3. That never changes. All right? So if you find that you're lost, that's on you. Catch up and we'll do it.
Now that we know it, we have to do it a lot.
From the water, My friends, I'm happy to welcome up today's lay minister, Darlene Thayne, who will speak about February's lay ministry theme, interdependence.
Hello, everyone. It's good to be with you on this beautiful wintry day. We all come into this world beautifully dependent as newborn babies. The role of our parents and society is to help us grow out of that role to become independent people. I personally couldn't wait to become independent because of a very difficult family life, and I needed to explore the world and find myself. In search of independence, I supported myself through college. I hear it was a lot harder back then. I found my own housing and roommates, fell in love and chose a mate, raised a family, and enjoyed an on and off career of teaching, admittedly with lots of help. But I felt pretty comfortable in my independent choices. Of course, interdependence also played a role as I received support through my church, particularly in childbearing and child rearing through my church and neighborhood. But I grew in confidence, feeling fairly independent, though my husband and I operated mostly as a team. Anyway, I soon had my first big test. Even though I'd moved out of my home right after high school, I had always lived with an array of roommates until I got married. It began as 2, then 3, till finally there were 6 of us. I would call my life busy and maybe even chaotic at times. Eventually, my children began to move on themselves, though our youngest son moved back in with us in the spring of 2010 to prepare for his upcoming wedding. It was a wonderful time until one day in June, my husband had a serious fall and subsequent brain hemorrhage caused by the blood thinners that he was taking. Our son's wedding was 1 week to the day after my husband's funeral, which I barely remember. And then I was living alone for the first time in my entire life, and I had some serious learning to do about interdependence. How to take care of the yard as well as the house while still teaching school, how to make repairs and decisions about all kinds of questions, or anything for that matter. How to feel comfortable as a single person in a world of couples. How to make our home a fun gathering place for our growing family without the funnest guy in the world present, while grieving his loss. How to manage to live in a discomfortingly silent house with no one to talk to or tell about my day. My feelings of independence, along with much of my confidence, vanished almost overnight. The fact that I had recently quit attending my LDS neighborhood church was definitely not helpful. However, I did have some amazing home teachers who kept coming and fixing things that needed fixing. My beautiful neighbor across the street would bring me a plate of Sunday dinner every week, and in my entire neighborhood and family helped me finish our backyard playhouse for the grandchildren that David had begun earlier that spring. They donated hours of time, paint, carpeting, and so much else to help me finish that playhouse by the end of the summer. There's a plaque near the front door that says Grandpa's Playhouse, which was presented to me and signed on the back by every person who helped me finish it, which was a lot. It has been such a significant thing in our family's life, and the grandchildren have come to love it and spend so much time there. The littles even played out there this past Christmas in the cold while the adults played games inside the house. Shortly after David's death, my newly married son moved into an apartment up the street, and he and his wife often invited me to dinner and kept in close contact. To be honest, our entire family was in such a state of grief that we were all just trying to stay afloat. One evening, when he came down to say hi, he noticed that there was a rifle and a box of bullets sitting by my front door, and he was alarmed, telling me that I really was going to be okay. In reality, it was my husband's old rifle from when he had gone deer hunting with his family that I just didn't want to have around, and I was going to get rid of. I also learned a lot from my Unitarian friends here, though David and I had only been attending this church for a short while. Tom Goldsmith, our former minister, was a godsend to me for years to come. After feeling so competently independent, I was beginning to realize how dependent I was on so many others, which in my case meant interdependence, the final and often most meaningful stage of personal growth in life. I have had my ups and downs since then, including some joint replacements, but my progress on this issue took another huge leap a little over 5 years ago when I fell and crushed my heel into about 30 pieces, and I needed to have it put back together Humpty Dumpty style. During my healing process after that surgery, I could not put any weight on that foot for several months. Thus, I needed a scooter to get around. When you have one leg to put weight on and you need to kneel on a scooter on the other, interdependence becomes a new reality. It's interesting how most of us take for granted the ability to get around physically and do things for ourselves. I am now so much more aware of those around me with similar challenges. I learned to use DoorDash and other food delivery services. I appreciated the handicapped access to so many places, including our own church. And I had friends take me to appointments. I learned how to get around the grocery store on one of those handicapped carts. And with the help of a certain physical therapist, who is a member of this congregation, I had ramps installed on my front porch. I would scoot myself down that ramp to the back of my car, open the lift gate, and while kneeling below it, I'd lift my scooter in and pull out a pair of crutches to get to the driver's seat, and off I went. There were lessons in humility, compassion, and most of all, interdependence, which I needed to learn. I thought I had learned my lesson, but not so. About 9 months later, it was determined that the cadaver bone material that had been put in my heel, during reconstruction surgery was being rejected by my body, and they needed to redo the whole thing. I had to have my daughter accompany me when they explained what I probably already knew. They needed to take some bone material from my own knee to knit my heel back together properly, and I would be doing that scooter crutches thing all over again. Well, at least I knew the routine, and that I could still function with lots of help from good people everywhere. I have read that interdependence is the third stage of personal growth in life, so I suppose we all need to learn that lesson in different ways, often through personal hardship, which was my experience. I really like the phrase, interdependent web of all existence, and I hope that I don't have too much more to learn about the personal and physical aspects of interdependence. Probably I do, but with the help of so many, I have confidence that I can handle it.
Come sing a joyful song.
On Friday, I had a doctor's appointment. And after I saw the doctor, he sent me downstairs to have some blood drawn. I know this is not something that everybody loves, but I love it. Why? Because after I have blood drawn, they send it to the lab, and then the lab sends my results to an app on my phone. And I get a detailed report of all the neat things that are in my blood that provide clues as to what my body is busy doing. The creatinine and the hemoglobin and the neutrophils, I don't know what they are or what they do, but to me, it's fascinating to get a peek into the complexity of my body, its chemistry and its processes, this inner world of which I only become aware when something is amiss. I like to imagine all my body's parts like a city, like all the people of a city going to work and doing their jobs, and all those jobs fitting together and influencing each other. And somehow it gives me an appreciation for the larger community in which I live. All these people I live with, each one a universe in themselves. All these complex universes interacting within our great, unfathomable universe. In just a few weeks, spring will arrive. Not all at once, just a little at a time. But with each new arrival, my heart leaps just a little. The first thing that I notice, before the crocuses, before the green shoots on the tips of branches, the very first sign of spring is the yowling of feral cats in the alleys around my building. They wake me up fighting this time of year, staking their claims on those damp, narrow passageways. And maybe it's a very urban thing, but it's long been the first sign of spring for me. Then it's mud season, the earliest part of spring. And that's a time of year when you can squat down on a muddy patch of lawn or park strip and see very tiny things growing. The little grass shoots and moss and tiny creatures starting to crawl around slowly in the bright, warm sunshine. The teeny tiniest little flowers, little stars of white or purple, so easy to pass by. The littlest stretching, reaching leaves of clover, these little plants who grow like they're trying to look big, just like a toddler or a little dog who doesn't know they're little. There are no elections in that world, no politics, no headlines. But there is fighting for power. But these smallest creatures fight for power in ways that make more power for everyone. For creatures so much bigger than them that you have to think they have no idea that we're here. I invite you to put a hand on your heart or on your belly. Just feel yourself breathing. You're alive. Wow. Right now, today, this moment, you're alive. What could be more wonderful? What could be a greater wonder, a more mysterious mystery? How many tiny creatures are supporting your life without even knowing you exist? Billions? Trillions? How many tiny creatures do you support by just being alive? How many amazing processes are supported with every breath you take? This week, I invite you to take time to be amazed at the universe of wonder that you are. Think of the trillions of living beings supporting your life, the trillions on your biological payroll, and send them gratitude. Give thanks for the universe of universes in which we are privileged to live.
Our choir truly is magnificent, aren't they? And we actually have 3 choirs. This is the Chancel Choir. We also have the junior singers, and we also have the bell choir. And our music department is just one of the many things that you make possible with your pledges. As Reverend Monica mentioned, we are about midway through our pledge drive, and we did set an ambitious goal this year. It was $650,000, which is more than we've ever asked for before. But it is what we need. We need this to account for the growth in membership that we have seen over the past several years. And we also need to account for the loss of the employee retention credit that was given to us by the government for many years during the pandemic, and we're no longer receiving. So $650,000 is what we need. And though it may be higher than what we've asked for before, I will say that my mentor's church in Texas is very similar to ours, downtown church, demographically very similar. But they have about 40 fewer members on the books, and they raised $700,000. I mean, if you want Texas to beat us, I don't. Anyway, I'd like to welcome up Liz Waitin. Oh, yes, Liz Waitin, who is going to talk a little bit about why she pledges.
I'm Liz Waitin, and I am a gleeful, grateful, and giving member of this church and congregation. And thank you all so much. I grew up in Utah, and I am sixth generation Utahn, so no way around it. In the rural towns where we lived, I was immersed in the Utah culture of expectations of what is acceptable, desirable, and good, and one religion's dominant influence on basically everything. I grew up hearing about tithing as a prescribed thing, part of the routine, an assumption, an accountability element, and what I came to interpret, my understanding, as a stigmatized practice connected with worthiness. I did not think of tithing as a charitable contribution or even giving. From my childhood friends' descriptions, because I was never LDS, from my childhood friends' descriptions, it was part of their relationship with Heavenly Father. My teenage friends actually described it in much more transactional terms. That was then. That was the input that I got from growing up in this culture. Maybe the biggest contrast that I have found in our UU culture is that we are encouraged to understand ourselves, our purpose, and our promise for making this church part of our personal budgets. As with everything here, we are invited. We are invited to come as we are and learn and understand about ourselves, about what we value, about our place in our community and the world, and the significance of our choices. I give because this building is a safe, inviting place for speaking and listening and growing our humanness. The people whom we employ exemplify our values. The people we meet and share time with enrich us and caringly challenge us. So at this point in my preparation, I looked at the list of reasons that was continuing to grow, of what gives me the reason and purpose to contribute here and build and grow this church, support the building, support all of us in our committees and activities here, and it grew into a long list. So my preparation changed a little bit, and I realized that I have always been told how capable I am. What I have grown to understand here with you all is that we realize our capabilities with the culture, with this culture of invitation, context, and challenge. With all the parts of our Sunday services, the messages, the music, the hymns, and what I have seen, just as a detail, what I have seen in our hymnals is when we look at the words that we sing, they are not rote, they are meaningful. They pull out the additional meaning in the messages and our conversations after service. I was just looking at the words from the hymn that we sang, that we learned, that we were learning today. And the interactions while we're here, before and during and after service. I give because with our contributions and the giving of self and funds, we build our being in this church. We build on being in this church. Thank you.
Oh, we give thanks for this precious day, for all gathered here, and those far away. I started too high. For this time we share, with love and care. Oh, we give thanks for this precious day. The offering for the work of the church will now be gratefully received. I think a lot about being part of the last generation that didn't grow up entirely with the internet. I was 14 in 1997 when my family got our first dial-up router. And I won't try to make the sound because it is, I am unable to do so. Of course, I got an AIM account right away so that I could instant message classmates and strangers. And to this day, randomized anonymous chat rooms were a thing that I cannot believe anyone ever let minors do. But I came out of it okay. And I was able to use the internet to connect to other anime and manga fans. And we were a rare breed in the 90s in the US, believe it or not. Seriously, y'all young weebs, and I know there are some of you in here, have no idea how good you have it now. You have entire shelves at Barnes & Noble of professionally translated manga. You have Hulu and Netflix and freaking Crunchyroll. When I got into anime, you couldn't even watch the gay seasons of Sailor Moon in the US. I had to order fan subs on eBay from Canada that would come on third generation VHS tapes that had like lines running through them because they were copies of copies of copies. And I had to pay for them with money orders. Do you even know what that is? I had to take cash to the post office and they would give me a money order that I would mail to Canada and I'd have to wait weeks for these. So eventually I just learned Japanese because it was easier. What was I talking about? The internet. Okay. So back then, we really thought the internet was going to be an incredible force for good. It was going to level the playing field, bypass sexist and racist and homophobic gatekeepers, and allow people to come together across the world. And in some ways that happened. But the internet and its ubiquity now with smartphones has changed the world and us in many ways that I could not have imagined back when I was on those early Revolutionary Girl Utena message boards. For one thing, I remember wondering about things quite frequently. What I mean is that I would wonder about the same thing over a long period of time. If I had a question like, what other movies has a certain actor been in? Or how many stars are in the Milky Way? Or what kind of birds steal other birds' nests? I would have to wonder about it for a fair amount of time before I would find the answer, either in a book or by asking someone who knew more than me, or from Encarta, the dictionary that came on a CD-ROM. There were many things that I wondered about that I probably forgot about before I found the answer. But now, we expect answers immediately. Google and AI are programmed to give us answers to pretty much any question instantaneously. Now, are the answers always deep, or in context, or correct? No. But they are fast and easy for us. And now that is what we expect all the time. And now it's a struggle for me even to get through watching a movie at home without Googling some random question that the movie brings up in my mind. Like, I was watching Mary Poppins with my family, and I Googled, when did King Edward die? Because Mr. Banks sings, it's grand to be an Englishman in 1910. King Edward's on the throne. It's the age of men. And I was like, was he? That seems late. So I Googled it, and because of that, I knew that the events of the film Mary Poppins must have taken place in March or April, because it was clearly not winter, and King Edward died on May 6th of 1910. And then I told my wife and my son this while the movie was still playing, and this absolutely enhanced everyone's experience of the classic film. Just kidding. This is a sickness that I am trying to break myself from. Because I miss not feeling like I need to know the answer to every question that pops into my head the moment it pops into my head. And I miss letting my mind wander. I even miss being bored. I used to be bored more. Until I got my first smartphone when I was 28, I would often just sit there when I was waiting at the doctor's office, or like in line, or on public transportation, or on the passenger side of a car, and my mind would wander in ways that it has fewer chances to do now. And honestly, I don't know if it's a great trade-off. Because most of the things that I read or watch on my phone don't really do much for me mentally, or emotionally, or spiritually. And most of the stuff that I Google on a random day and get an immediate answer to, I don't actually need to know. And many of these answers I forget almost instantly anyway. Also, more than half the time I pick up my phone to Google some question, I also end up checking email or socials or something else that winds up sucking my attention for longer than I intended. And what I am realizing is that much of this information seeking is actually just distraction from being present to the moment, to life. Because when we are present to life, really present, without distraction, we are kind of in a state of wonder. I think of the times that I've been most present, and almost all involve a feeling of wonder, of bearing witness to something so vast and incredible that I wouldn't think to seek some sort of answer or explanation, at least not the kind that the internet can give, because I know that it goes beyond that type of communication. It probably goes beyond words. When my son was a newborn, I would just stare at him like all the time. I was in awe of everything he did, everything about him. And I didn't feel the need to Google anything about that because it was pure wonder, pure presence. When you think you can and should get an answer to any question at any time, whether or not it's a good answer, it shuts down wonder. And I can't help but think that our suddenly chronic lack of wonder is affecting our happiness and health. Because it's not just being able to ask Google or ChatGPT our questions, it's the algorithmic way that everything online has now trained us. Everything online, from social media to ads to potential dating partners to suggested books or podcasts or news stories, are directed at us mathematically by demographic. What this does is rob us to openness, to the unexpected, and to serendipity. And several sociologists have noted a decrease in the prevalence and value of serendipity as we become more constantly connected. Since I know where everyone is now and can communicate with them at any time, there's less just running into someone. And since I curate everything or have it curated by the algorithm, there is less just happening upon a book at the library or bookstore. And some say this phasing out of the cultural valuing of serendipity is why romantic comedies are not the popular film genre that they once were. After all, old school rom-coms lean heavily on serendipity. When Harry Met Sally would not happen now, because Sally would have either met Harry over text or social media a week before their first road trip, or more likely she would have just taken an Uber. And yes, I have thought maybe I'm just middle-aged and old-fashioned, and I can accept that. But, ye children of the smartphone, let me tell you a tale from way back in 2008. Back when my cell phone was a small brick that flipped open, and we had to text T9 style by pushing the actual buttons on our keypads. I was 25 and living in Boston. A small group of my friends were planning on driving down to New York for a weekend. I decided to tag along, as I hadn't been to New York City since high school. I sat in the back seat of my friend's car on the 5-hour drive. And again, we didn't have smartphones, so conversation, the radio, and a 6-disc CD player in the trunk were our only forms of entertainment. At points during the long drive, all of these lulled, and my mind wandered. I started to think of a college roommate of mine. She and I had been close our freshman year and sophomore year, so much so that we decided to move off campus and share a lease on a crappy student house our junior year. Now, in a tale as old as time that I was too young to foresee, we were good friends, but we were not great roommates. By the end of the lease, we had gotten in a huge fight that effectively ended our friendship. I didn't hang out with her at all our senior year, and the last I had heard, she had moved to New York City. I had felt regret in the years since college about how our friendship had ended, but at that time there was no real way to find her. I had searched for her on MySpace, I know, but her name was Sarah Davis. And at the time, there was no algorithmic system in social media that would organize the various and sundry Sarah Davises by likelihood that I would know them. So my search returned literal hundreds of pixelated, grainy, shot from above profile pics that I wasn't even confident that I could identify her from. So as we neared the city and I looked out the window at the cemetery that I just still don't know the name of, with the Manhattan skyline and the setting sun in the distance, I remember thinking, if I could see one person in New York, it would be Sarah Davis. And I remember saying this in my head like a wish, like an incantation. But At the same time, I knew that it was nearly impossible because we would be there for less than 2 days, and there were nearly 8 million people in New York City. My friends and I hit the ground running on that first night, as was the style of the times. After a late dinner, we bar hopped through Brooklyn, consuming fun and toxic beverages that young people today are surely too intelligent to imbibe. It was late, past 1 a.m., when we decided to hit one more bar my friend had heard good things about. It was a speakeasy with no sign and it had a small outdoor area in the back with a probably illegal fire pit. And I remember floating toward the bar in a fairly altered state when who should walk directly in front of me? Sarah Davis. And my drunken mind immediately accepted that it was her. After all, I had summoned her. So I reached out and grabbed her arm and said, "Sarah Davis!" And she turned and looked at me with trepidation and horror. And I said in my head, "Oh no, there's no way this is her. You just grabbed a stranger in a bar, you psychopath." But then, the look of shock on her face changed to joy. And she shouted my name and grabbed my arm. It was her. In all the city, I somehow found her. So Sarah and I stole into a booth and spent nearly 2 hours catching up. We told each other everything that had happened to us since our falling out, and each one told the other how happy we were for all of the good things going on in each other's lives. When we finally left, we exchanged contact information and gave each other a big hug. And we each said how glad we were that we had run into each other. We never said we were sorry for our falling out, or even mentioned it at all, but we didn't have to. The serendipity of our meeting allowed us to show one another how we felt simply by our interaction. I think about how if this had happened just a few years later, if I'd been able to find her via social media, I would have had to reach out to her and lead with something like, "Hey, I'm sorry we fought. How are you?" We would have had to lead our reconnection with a cautious rehashing of the past, rather than the very present burst of joy in that Brooklyn bar. I also think, would I even have been on the lookout for her in the same way? Or would I have used every bored, uncomfortable moment to Google something or read the most recent horror in the news? After all, even the constant foretellings of doom that the internet has gotten so good at are, in a way, easy answers. Now, I wonder how much I don't notice. What is all this distraction distracting me from? What magic am I not open to when I am constantly looking for fast, easy answers? I miss being open to serendipity and wonder. And I'm trying to get back to that state by limiting my computer and phone time. But it's difficult because now you can't even go out to eat and be present with your friends and family without the restaurant telling you to pull up their menu on their phone. I always ask for a paper one. I'm that guy. And no, I don't think we should avoid things like the news completely. After all, we truly are living in frightening political times. But, and I will keep on beating this drum, we need to be tuned in to life. They are trying to flood the zone and paralyze us. They have said this. Musk is an internet troll. Internet trolls feed on our attention. Always has it been so. We must be informed enough that we can make intelligent choices, but we must also keep our attention where it matters, where we can make things better, where life is. May we begin to regain our senses of wonder. May we allow our attention to rest and not always to urgently seek. May we allow some answers to be received in due time, rather than always demanded at once. I invite all of you to start to retrain your attention with me. For when we take back our attention, we take back our right to joy, our right to love, our right to wonder, our right to life. May it be so. Please rise in body or spirit for our closing hymn, number 139 in the gray. May all beings be well. May all beings be content. May our actions be bonded to our deepest values. May we treat others as we would be treated. May we move through each day with compassion toward ourselves, our friends, and our enemies. May each breath bring us closer to our truest selves and to those we love. Amen.